Motorhead is one of the most legendary rock and roll and metal bands in history. They changed the entire genre and inspired hundreds, if not thousands of bands that would follow. They made music that was hardcore and rough, cutting through the air like a knife and hitting you right in the soul. Pure rock and roll that was unchained and causing chaos without control. There are really no other bands similar to Motorhead. They are unique in their sound, style and aesthetic, at least the way they used to be in the 70s and early 80s during their golden years.
You keep reading about people like Donald Trump, and he's got so much money, right? And you can't get a smile out of the guy with a crowbar. And I met a lot of millionaires, because there's a lot of millionaires in rock and roll, and the more money they got, the more miserable they are. I don't see the point, because they forget about being happy, they just think about money.
This band was wild, drinking more booze than anyone else and taking enough drugs to fill entire arenas. Their music was pure and raw because it was real and authentic. No one had a voice like Lemmy. It harmonized perfectly with their music and felt like a mix between punk, hard rock and heavy metal. It was heavy and almost demonic. You can also see how much Motorhead inspired speed and thrash metal musically but also aesthetically. I mean, Metallica literally credits them as one of their biggest influences, and you definitely get a strong Motorhead vibe from some songs on Kill 'Em All. Not to mention how a lot of the early thrash metal aesthetic pulls a lot from Lemmy, such as the ammo belt. Motorhead also basically started the whole new wave of British heavy metal movement. They gave rock music the edge it desperately needed back then, and by having a strong punk attitude and vibe around them, they made the genre dangerous and exciting again. Because in the mid-70s, rock music was starting to lose a bit of steam and basically suffered from a lot of the same problems that late 80s metal bands would also suffer from. Repetition, oversaturation, big egos, and a lack of creative energy. This is exactly what killed hair metal, for example, not Nirvana or grunge. The genre ate itself. In the 70s, however, Motorhead managed to smash into the scene on fiery black leather steeds and save rock and roll from self-destruction. What made them so different was their simplicity. They didn't have any flashy visuals or overly long guitar solos. There was no psychedelic fooling around, nor were they pretentious pricks stuck up their asses. Their music was straight to the point. It was heavy and loud, but also perfect headbanging material. Which doesn't mean that their music wasn't technically innovative or pushing the norms at the time. It did all of that, but it also wasn't something that would take you years to master perfectly on guitar. What I also really love about Motorhead is that they used to have this Wild West aesthetic that just fit perfectly to them. It felt like they were outlaws on the run from the law, robbing banks and causing trouble. Their music wasn't western or country, but a lot of their early marketing and presentation felt like a classic Clint Eastwood soundtrack. I mean, seriously, songs like Shoot You in the Back could have easily been the theme of the Dollars trilogy.
Get 3 coffins ready.
Your eye is lying into the night. No one is gonna shoot you in the back. Hey.
Motorhead was wild and an unstoppable force. It's no wonder why they started the whole new wave of British heavy metal genre, even if they themselves weren't necessarily part of it or actively making music that fit its criteria. Nevertheless, I'd still consider them part of it because there would be no heavy metal as we know it without them.
Heavy metal, so powerful, so deadly, it could not be measured even by scientists in lead suits until now.
I will measure heavy metal, and you will help me. Together we will determine the top 20 metal videos of all time and conquer the world as we know it.
Send a postcard with your choices for the top 5 heavy metal videos to MTV's Measure of Metal.
We'll show the top 20 vote getters on December 26th, and we will win the Nobel Prize for Physics, no questions asked.
300 randomly selected winners will receive the definitive Doubleday Dolphin Book Heavy Metal Thunder. You can't make a heavier trade for a postcard. Your top 5 video list must be received by Monday, December 9th.
In the name of science and MTV and all that is metal, I command you. Come on, we need those letters. Send them in now.
Now, to be fair, maybe saying that they started the new wave of British heavy metal is a bit of a stretch and a heavy simplification. Obviously, there were a lot of factors and bands that contributed to the genre and movement that were just as equally important. But I'd say Motorhead was one of, if not the biggest driving force, and also one of the bands that stood out from the crowd the most. I mean, seriously, it's impossible to listen to Lemmy's voice, Eddie Clark's guitar, and Phil Taylor's drums without violently banging your head the entire time. When they got going, the music was wild, hardcore, unstoppable, and simply timeless. Even today, they sound fresh, new, and original. And I think the main reason for that is simply the unstoppable power the original trio had. I like a lot of later Motorhead, and I don't think anyone can deny the talent of their later members. I respect all of them, but to me personally, the original lineup was the best. The albums from that period are the ones that I listen to the most, and those are the ones that have some of the most hardcore rock and roll energy I have ever experienced. Now, to be fair, I think their second lineup was still extremely good and amazing. They had a lot of bangers in the 80s, and I think the band was just as relevant there. Motorhead themselves never really called their music metal or heavy metal. Lemmy always said it was just rock and roll, and in a lot of their songs you can definitely hear a late 50s and 60s rock sound. They even covered Louie Louie. Personally, I would still call them metal, depending on the song and album, just because that's how their music sounds to me. I also feel like a lot of these genre terms have been muddied over the years. I mean, pure rock and roll, if we go by the most classic definition, is the original type of rock music that started in the 50s. Stuff like Elvis, Chuck Berry, Little Richard, etc. Motorhead will always be a legendary band, and they definitely are rock and roll gods. The music will live on forever, even with all the original members gone.
Break it up, break it